Was such a good show last night or 2 nights ago. It was amazing. But we will have more. And as we have more, they will get fancier and funner. Elrod, thank you for listening to us. I still go by Ashley. It's more so just like public facing. It's hard to be a trans person and have like my legal name out there. And so I try my best to not use my legal name, which is why we all have stage names. But then also I go by Carmen on the internet just because it makes it safer for everybody. So, thank you. I'm glad you thought the Brooklyn show was awesome. Okay, so it is 101. Who has lore questions? I know someone has lore questions. Well, I know someone said they have questions, so hit me with them. You can also, if you do have questions, if it's easier than typing them, you can just request to join and ask that way. We are still following the echo, technically speaking, but you'll learn why soon. Portland dates. Yes, we do have some Portland dates planned, but I believe they're in March. Okay, Haunted fits into the narrative in a very funny way. So you'll notice that Haunted and The Garden are postcards in their like imagery. And so those are, you come to learn during the Emerald Grove that the Garden and the Emerald Grove are the same place. And so Haunted and the Garden are places that Eden visits. The Garden is. Where Eden visits inside of the Emerald Grove, which is kind of like her safe space. Safe space is such a wrong word, but it's a pocket dimension that she goes to when experiencing the watercolors. Haunted is just kind of her, like, memories of that place. Biggest inspiration for the storyline? We wanted to be a band that didn't just have songs. We wanted to have like something that people could connect to in a deeper way than just like, hey, these songs are cool, they sound cool. And by having like not a loose narrative, because there's a pretty strict narrative that we follow, but using like looser lyrics and not really like saying things like one-to-one lets people attach their own meanings to things, which we really like. But Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, like basic space stuff. Star Set would be the biggest thing that like kind of like tipped me in this direction, in the Armory Wars from Coheed and Cambria. So one day I hope that we are in those ranks in terms of storytelling. Yes, we should have more Detroit shows soon. Ooh, okay. When experiencing the watercolors, does this mean that there's a significantly deeper meaning to the colors in all the album titles? Yes. So if you go to our Discord, there is a lore thread, and there is a like 100-something page document made by the fans that breaks down the colors in all of the album titles. There is a reason. So we don't really talk about this like overtly, but essentially when you become a painter and you commune with the sigil that is inside of the index, you tether yourself to the life force of a planet. And painters lose their ability to see and talk, like outwardly. So they communicate and travel when they need to via the watercolors, which is essentially just like, imagine a completely black canvas and there's like rivers of color, and that's kind of how they see. What happened in the Indigo Fault between Eden and the Relic, and did it cause Neptune's destruction? So, we actually go over this in the lore drops that happened in the live show. So yes, painters are allowed to tether themselves to one planet. It is one painter per one planet. So there's Neptune, Jupiter, Mars, all of that stuff. When Eden found herself on Neptune, because she was following the echo, she found herself in the sanctuary where the relic is. She touched the relic, which she didn't know she wasn't supposed to do. But when she did that, because she herself was a painter and didn't know, she severed the tether between Neptune and Neptune's relic. And because of that, because she didn't finish the communion that happens in like that ritual, Neptune on Earth, the painter, started dying, and then Neptune, the planet, started falling apart because they are reliant on each other. So yes, and then in the story of the Emerald Grove, like the album, you learn that Neptune dies, that the planet itself is gone, and then another painter starts to die. Gail, yes, there is a lore document inside the, it's in one of the threads. I will at you in that thread so that you can see it. You should be able to see it, but sometimes it's funky. We actually do. We get a ton of fan art for the songs. Yes, the lore document is like insane, like insane, and it's not even caught up to the album. But we are currently, I am currently, working on a lore Bible, which will essentially be like a appendices of characters, what they're doing, where they're going, and like what things mean and stuff like that. So like as fans, you have something to look at, to read, and to follow as the story grows. We're essentially going to work on it in chapters. So there is currently Watercolors 0 and Watercolors the Emerald Grove. There will be one for each. They'll be shorter, but they will be... Yes, soon, TM. It's just because we're waiting for the album to come out. So now we can publish part 1 and 2. And getting them printed is kind of a bitch, but we will have them. I'm probably going to have to commission... I will have to commission someone to do artwork for it. But yeah, so that's fun. Yes, I can also tag you in the lore thread. Or really... Jules can, because she is the main proponent of like putting that shit together and understanding everything. So once everyone that is new to the server has roles, we can make sure that you are tagged in the lore post. Was there any inspiration for the lore? There isn't any like super direct inspiration. We talk about how when we wrote the first 2 songs, there was no lore directly attached to them. But then as we wrote The Indigo Fault, we started retconning lore to the first 2 songs. And then after the songs were written for the first EP, attaching it. Like writing the story afterwards. With the Amethyst Drift, we wrote the story while we were writing the EP. Which is why there's like a step up in terms of storytelling with the songs themselves and the lyrics. And then with the Emerald Grove, we wrote the entire story first, and then we wrote the songs. And then same with our next album, we already know all of the story beats that are going to happen, where we're going, who's dying, who's not dying, who's in the team. And then we start writing the songs next month. So, yeah. And everyone writes it. Everyone like pitches into different levels of the lore, different levels of like character development, world development, stuff like that. So it's a pretty joint effort, which is really nice. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. Hello to all the new people that have joined. Any other silly, crazy questions? Yeah, exactly. That's essentially what the lore Bible is going to be. They are going to be little, like, comic book style tie-ins. So, what happened to major characters in the Indigo Fault / the Amethyst Drift, such as 72, Sev, Lyra, Major Wallen, Phobos, and the General? Okay, this is a great question. So, Sev / 0072 is still around. It is essentially Eden's onboard AI on board the Texas. So anytime Eden has to use the Texas, which is like the ship that she stole to get off planet during the subjugation, she will still be present, which is great. Major Welland is a character that is part of the survey network. So when they become relevant again, she will be back. Phobos is, Lyra. Lyra as a character, that's interesting because we haven't really done anything with a lot of the major characters just because, like, it's been so focused on Eden, but as we go through with the Obsidian Prayer, which is like what our next album is most likely going to be called, we are going to go into a lot of like what has happened in the past to all of these people. Phobos is a satellite. I can't remember which satellite he is. Pretty sure he's Mars' satellite. Phobos dies, which is where Deimos comes in, which is why Deimos is around, because there can only be one satellite at a time, much like there can only be one painter. The lore document is fucking insane, and then once you, like, look at the lore document and you re-listen to the songs, they all make quite a bit more sense. And a lot of the references we make in the songs to each other make more sense. Yes, Ren, write that down. What do we know about Sailor? Okay, Sailor is a combat medic who is a citizen of the City of Rust. She was neither part of the Architects or the Survey Network. She was a unwitting, like, just casualty. Not casualty, but she was an experiencer of kind of the oppression from the Survey Network, the destruction that came at the hands of the Architects trying to fight back, who eventually ended up joining Eden's side. Deimos is the satellite that I don't want to say replaced because that's a weird word, that took the place of Phobos once Phobos disappeared. But the next album really gets into what happened to Phobos, and I think y'all are gonna like it. Deimos is essentially Tom from Casey. He is the narrator in this universe and kind of like helps guide what happens. Have a great practice. Essentially what I'll do is tonight or tomorrow I will just make like an update in the lore document with all of the new characters and kind of like where they came from and what is going to happen with them during the Emerald Grove, which is obviously the album we just dropped. So, what is happening in the field recording? Okay, so that is actually Michael Skaggs from Outline and Color. That is his character being introduced into the lore. Yeah, so like his character in the Astral Gallery is that same character from that field recording. Yes, it is very neat. I don't know that one. I mean, I know that one, but I will have to go back and listen and then I can answer that question. Thank you. I'm glad you think it is exciting. It dictates a lot of our music, which is nice. On November 6th, it was posted that a song that was in the works is a minute and a half of straight anger towards the world. Did that end up becoming one of the... Yes, that is City of Rust. And real quick, I'm going to end the live temporarily so I can use the bathroom, and then I will be back in about 5 minutes to answer more questions. I'll be back. Yeah, too tired. If you click on that link, the discord.gg link, that will take you to our Discord. And then we have some mods in here that can approve you. What mistakes did Eden make that caused her exile from the Architects, and did the events of the City of Rust cause the Architects' exile from the said city? So, fun fact, Eden is the only one exiled. Well, Eden and the group known as FOXCULT. And that is because during Rubicon, which is... So City of Rust is essentially Eden finding out and learning about the oppression that happened at the hands of the Survey Network. And then during Rubicon, while everyone is defending the city, Eden essentially blacks out and taps into a part of the watercolors that no one else... Well, the painters knew about it, but Eden didn't. That causes a massive burst of destruction, essentially, and it kills hundreds of people. And no one yet known had used the watercolors for anything violent. And so because they didn't know that she had no idea you could even do that, it was more of a precaution, which caused her to be exiled by the Architects and the Survey Network. How does someone access the garden / the Emerald Grove? Only Eden is able to access the Emerald Grove, and whoever she lets in. And it is essentially just kind of like her pocket dimension. How did Eden make it back to Earth from NGC 3603 since it was 20,000 light years away from Earth? Did she manage? Yes! So she actually went back through the same wormhole that she went through to get there. There is one other wormhole that exists outside of the one between Neptune and Uranus that you do not learn about until Album 2. What kind of state is Earth even in? There was multiple lines in the Indigo Fault that alluded to the absence rarity of water and flora to the point that it is almost unseen. That is true. So Earth is in a state of just constant collapse. What you learn in the beginning of Album 2, and I don't want to spoil too much, is that for the longest time, we made you guys pick a side, whether it was the Architects or wasn't, whether it was the Architects or the Survey Network. What you learn at the start of Album 2 is that neither of them are good. But there's the illusion of good, which is important. Earth is fucked, though. Earth is very... In reference redacted, priority target, Major Wallen says to the General, "This is your vision we're chasing. We are close. This is the last piece." What vision does the General have? So, one thing that you learn in the album, and it's not overtly learned, but it's kind of pieces of lore that you can pick up, is that it turns out that the generals and like kind of the leaders in this army are all maternal. They're all women. And it's much a mimic of the Architects' kind of society and how it is a maternal society, or matriarchal society, I should say, where women lead. And what that is because the Survey Network was kidnapping painters before they were old enough to commune to relics, to try and create their own set of painters. And they wipe their memories, which is why no one knows that, like, Welland and Sev are the same person. It is just a mind-wiped AI of Major Welland. Eden escaped the PSN before they were really known as the PSN. So Eden's original name at the very, very start of the story is Ethan. Ethan is and was a rare male-born painter. All painters are women. Ethan was born a painter. This happens once every couple thousand years where a male person is born a painter, and had no idea. But during the subjugation, when the Extraplanetary Defense and Economics Network was essentially causing everything that's happened so far during the subjugation, Ethan fled off planet into Texas, which is where they met Sev, which is where they started following the Echo. And Ethan was in space for so long that they forgot their name. And there is a lot of conversation between Sev and Ethan aboard the Texas about like what he should do, how he doesn't feel like he belongs, where he belongs, anything like that. And Sev and Ethan have kind of a heart-to-heart, and Sev tells Ethan that Ethan has to essentially pick a name because Ethan no longer remembers his own. And it takes a while, but as he starts looking around the ship, all he ever sees is like manuals and documents and stuff like that for the Extraplanetary Defense and Economics Network, which on the binding of their books is abbreviated as Eden, EDEN, which is why anytime Eden is mentioned, it is all caps because it is an acronym or abbreviation for the Extraplanetary Defense and Economics Network. And he has no idea. And so when he gets back to Earth, well, she, now in this case, when she gets back to Earth after the events of the Indigo Fault and the Amethyst Drift, she is face to face with the Planetary Survey Network. She has no idea that those are the same people, but they have changed kind of their moniker in the guise of like being good. Actually, I have more. What is the subjugation? What is Sailor Riven's role in the story besides being a combat medic? Okay. So, the subjugation in the distant future, the powers of Earth collapse. It is essentially like capitalism has failed on a grandiose scale. And because there is no world power, because there is no leading power, there is a power vacuum. This causes society in its whole to start deteriorating, and it becomes sort of like a Mad Max style world where no one's in charge, it's fucking chaos, and because there is a vacuum of power, the CIA and NASA have started to work together under the table to essentially create the Extraplanetary Defense and Economics Network to protect the people and protect them from, forces on Earth, but also forces in space. We come to learn that this isn't the case and that they had an ulterior motive, but it is essentially just the collapse of Earth in itself. Everything has started dying, the resources have run out, and they really need someone to guide. And then Sailor Riven's role is she is now the narrator. Because of how the story has been told so far, it's always been told from Eden's point of view or Deimos's point of view. But because Deimos is no longer going to be present, still be a character, but won't be present in where the story is going, we needed a new kind of point of view. And so it'll be Eden's point of view and Sailor's point of view. The scare quotes are doing a lot of heavy lifting there. Is this the first time they've rebranded in an effort to look less threatening? Let me think. Yes, it is. So, I mean, technically, no, it's the third or the second, because the first time is when they rebranded as like Eden to begin with, when it was the CIA and NASA, and then from Eden to the PSN. So 2, technically. And it's so funny saying all this out loud because it sounds fucking insane. Hello, Mike. You have missed all of the lore. Does this mean that we can sort of predict there's a painter out there causing trouble? I wouldn't say a painter, but I would say someone attached to a painter. Let's just say, and the only hint I'm going to give at album 2 is that one of our close friends in this universe, someone attached to a certain painter known as Mars, has been missing for a long time, and no one knows where this satellite is at. Well, in album 2, you learn that he's been working with someone to utilize the watercolors to learn how to jump pocket dimensions. It takes a long time to come up with these stories and to like vet them and make sure that they're cohesive and stuff like that. My brain is so full of lore and information, and I want to ask questions, but I have no idea what to ask. Well, as you get more questions to ask, Gail, just put them in the chat. Like, put them in the lore Discord, like, channel. Maybe it's Phobos. Maybe it's someone else. Who knows? Okay, so before I wrap this up, does anyone else have any other questions, whether it's lore related, writing related, band related, anything at all? I have like 5 minutes left. Yes, Jules, exactly, smiley emoji. The smiley emoji is back with a fucking vengeance. How did everyone else choose their stage name? Oh, that's a great question. We just let them pick whatever they wanted. So like Mia and Faye are painters, Jupiter and Mars, which become very important in the second album that they picked those ones. And then Sailor, Tiare, obviously. So yeah. I got smiley emoji put by y'all on Twitter, and it put the fear of God into me. Honestly, Yale, that's real as fuck. Anytime that I put the smiley emoji in response to anything lore related, you should be afraid. When will we get more concrete information about the next album? I know y'all just dropped the Emerald Grove, but y'all keep referencing the next one. Well, we are recording our next single in December. So we are also recording the full album. Oops. Hello, you fell off my steering wheel. We are recording the full album in February. So expect information January-ish. There's not going to be like a massive wait between LP1 and LP2. It's more so just like whenever we feel confident releasing the album in a state that it is. Yes, Jono. Album 2 already. I've also been recording this live stream, so I'll put them together and post it on YouTube so information isn't lost. Yeah. FOXCULT Christmas dethrones the Archfiend Mariah. Honestly, that's what we're hoping for. That's why we're putting out a single in fucking December, so that, like, we can just keep this ball rolling. And we plan on touring a lot more next year. So I know this year was kind of quiet because we changed vocalists and everything, but like next year, so much. Welcome to all the new people. Yes, you will have to come to the next tour. And yes, FOXCULT Christmas. Well, thank you. I would also rather listen to us than Mariah Carey. We just got to get everybody else to do the same, you know? Pump those numbers up. Okay, so I have to go pick up Marin and go to IKEA to get a mattress. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for asking all the questions. If you have any more questions, please feel free to put them into the Discord, ask away. If someone could post the Discord link another time, I would greatly appreciate it so that everyone can join. We'll get you approved so that you can chat in there, you read the lore documents. Jules needs to update it because it's been months. But yeah, I will do another one of these in probably December as we start writing album 2. Bye.